Good afternoon, actually good morning. I'm meteorologist Melissa Nord. Let's see if we can actually move this over a little bit so that we can get, nope, it's not going to move. All right, I think our camera needs to be adjusted, but we'll just keep on going here. So we are looking ahead with a weather impact alert for the chance of thunderstorms as we head later through the day today. And these thunderstorms could have heavy rainfall. Some of them could be strong or severe. We're going to be talking about some of those thunderstorms producing really heavy rainfall to the point where we're going to be dealing with some standing water on the roadways. So late day storms, that is why we have this weather impact alert. Let's see if this thing works here. It does not. Okay, so we'll keep going then. So what's the weather impact? The time frame of it, 3 to 10 o'clock. Damaging winds are primary severe weather player, and we're also going to see a lot of very heavy rainfall moving in. And the ground at this point is like a soaked sponge. It's pretty saturated. So when we add more rain on top of that, it is difficult for the ground to absorb that rainfall coming in. And for that reason, our flood risk is elevated today because of the additional heavy rain coming in round after round after round that we've seen over the last several days over the holiday weekend. Cloudy skies over Atlanta right now. This is our camera that is on top of Northside Hospital. And this camera, you can see, is showing gray skies in the background. Very gray skies, very gloomy day out there. Here's another vantage point. This is our camera at Dahlonega, University of North Georgia, and it also shows a very similar picture in a sense because we have that gray overcast sky, and not just gray overcast sky, but we also are dealing with some on and off drizzle at times. So that drizzle is really a nuisance and creating kind of a dreary start to your Tuesday. Now on radar, and just so you know, while we're on here live streaming on 11 Live Plus on our Weather Impact 24/7 channel, I'm also getting notification from the Weather Service in. So if you see me looking at my phone, these are all updates that I'm getting in about different alerts and things that they're putting out. And one of the things that the Storm Prediction Center has just put out is a kind of an outlook of where they're going to be issuing their next severe thunderstorm watches and also where they're really concerned about heavy rain and flooding. And one of those areas that they're very concerned about heavy rain and flooding is in Northwest Georgia. So that includes places like Rome. That includes places like Tryon, where we have a damage survey ongoing right now in Chattooga County from the National Weather Service from storms that hit there on Sunday evening. Live radar this morning, we've had some showers around. A lot of those have fizzled out, but what I am tracking are storms that are starting to ride up this I-20 corridor. And in fact, they're not just riding up. In some cases where they're going over the same areas over and over again, we call this training. This is setting up a really heavy rainfall and flooding risk as we head through the next several hours into the afternoon. Then you can also see this Boeing segment of storms that's pushing into western Alabama. It's this complex that's going to crack across that state up into our area as we head throughout the afternoon and evening. So we are tracking that threat of heavy rainfall. We're tracking the threat of severe weather as well. I'll show you satellite and radar looking a little bit further towards the west. You can see the storms, that heavy rain over Mississippi, but really it's the leading edge of that where we're seeing the greatest risk of those lightning strikes and the greatest risk of some gusty winds as the storm line kind of moves to the east. But let's talk about how this is going to progress through the afternoon. This is a look at the live radar looping from the last couple of hours, the wide picture of the radar. Let me show you how this progresses as we work our way into the afternoon. And unfortunately, I wish I knew how to fix this camera because you all cannot even see the timestamp on it. So let's see if there's another way for me to, there we go. Sorry, I'm not an engineer, everybody, so I don't know how to move the camera. Brand new technology working for you. Okay, so forecast track. Now you can see the timestamp up here, and then you see how the radar could progress hour by hour. One thing I want to point out before we roll this through is that this is not initializing perfectly, meaning it's not actually depicting what's on radar perfectly. It's got some of those storm clusters, but it's not aligning it exactly how it is. So you take this with a grain of salt, but I like the progression that it shows. We'll see those areas of heavy rain starting to get into northwest Georgia early this afternoon, and you see how it really expands on radar. So we see storms moving in. Not everybody will see them by 3 o'clock this afternoon, but areas of heavy rain, thunderstorms in West Georgia 2, 3, 4 o'clock today, and then increasing in the Atlanta area as we get into that evening commute. So 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the heart of the Atlanta area. And we'll also see more of that rain and storm activity pushing east as we get closer to sunset this evening. So that was a wide to zoomed in picture of the forecast track. Now let me show you our severe weather outlook for today. And I'm going to show you this and I'm going to talk about why I don't fully agree with this. This is our outlook for today. It has a level 2 risk all the way to Atlanta, all the way along the I-20 corridor to the West Georgia state line, and all the way to the I-20 corridor in the Augusta suburbs. Okay, it has a level 1 threat up here. What we're working with today, though, are cooler temperatures in Atlanta and points north and points east. This is the wedge. This is the wedge that we're dealing with. So when we have these cooler temperatures, the atmosphere is what we call more conditionally stable. If we can break the temperatures up, warm them up, we destabilize. We warm those temperatures up and we can have more of that severe weather risk. If the temperatures stay cool, it's hard to break into a severe weather risk. And this is the temperature right now, 64 in Atlanta. That is it. It's 10 o'clock, okay? It's still 64 degrees. 58 in Gainesville, 57 in Clayton, 65 in Peachtree City, but look at this, the outskirts of that wedge down here in Thomaston and LaGrange, we're up in the mid 70s. So we need that warm air to surge further north for us to see a decent severe risk really playing out in the metro. So for that reason, I'll go back to that severe outlook. I think that this is a little bit overdone. This level 2 to 1 threshold, I think it should be more like down in here, and level 1 threat probably more like here and up into northwest Georgia. The wedge doesn't fully sometimes encompass that western part of the state. So there's a lot of nuances when we get into these severe weather events that have wedges of how these outlooks are put out with the Storm Prediction Center versus how we as meteorologists locally in Georgia feel that they should really be put out. So what are we working with today? We're working with heavy rain. We're working with the threat of damaging winds. Here's our wind directions. This shows you kind of there's the wedge right there. Here's the northeast winds. That's the southern extent of it on this model data for noontime today. So we're watching to see if those winds can shift direction and warm us up. Here's another evidence marker of that wedge of cooler air, and it's our dew points. You see dew points 70 degrees, Thomaston and LaGrange. When we get that northeast wind, it's not just driving down cooler temperatures through the Carolinas, down the Appalachians into Georgia, but it also drives down a drop in those dew points. So it just kind of reinforces how chilly things are outside when we bring moisture into the equation. But eventually today, as we track those storms in, we're going to see temperatures trying to climb up right as the storms are coming in, into the 70s, maybe into the 80s. And if we can tap into that warmer air, that increases the risk of stronger thunderstorms. I'm going to show you 2 different models now. We're going to go hour by hour, like very close in timing. This first is the HER model. So if you've heard me on these streams, I tell you the difference in the models. This one's our high resolution rapid refresh model. And this one you can see, it's got those few showers we've been tracking this morning, and then it brings in that huge slug of moisture up I-59, up I-20, and it brings it first up here towards Rome and Polk County and Haralson County. And then as we push it out towards 1:30, it's arriving near the state line, and then it really increases across the metro by 3, 4, 5 o'clock today. So that's showing you the HER model, and then it continues through East Georgia as we head closer to sunset. Now, as we look at that model, you know, where are we going to see the strongest storms? Well, probably down in here, okay? Probably down in here. I think a lot of this is going to hit that cooler air, and it's just going to lose its intensity. So even things are going to be very vivid with lightning and everything back to our west, we might see those lightning counts coming down a bit as it hits that more cool, stable air heading into Georgia. So that is the HER model. Let me show you the graph model. This model Earlier, I did not like. Now the newest updates, I like a little bit more. So this is our in-house graph model, and this also shows you that wedge. It shows you that rain kind of working its way up through the I-20, I-59 corridor. Actually, I like the way that this shows it pretty nicely. 12 o'clock arriving there on the state line, and then as we work our way into the afternoon, increasing the storms through West Georgia first. So this is 3 o'clock on the forecast track, and then working its way into the metro 4, 5 o'clock on top of Atlanta, and then moving east as we get a little bit later. So this timeline today has shifted earlier than if you were watching Chris Holcomb last night at 11 o'clock. That's how these setups work when we have these mesoscale convective complexes, we call them, or mesoscale convective systems. Sometimes models show one thing one day, and then the timeline shifts, or the area going to be impacted shifts a little bit within a matter of 12 to 24 hours. So they both show that similar concept of heavy rain, storms coming in, and heavy rainfall could definitely lead to ponding, standing water on the roadways. I am concerned about that for the evening commute specifically. We have a lot of roadways around the metro that just don't tolerate repeated rounds of heavy rainfall. The ground's saturated. It's like a soaked sponge. So you add more rain on top of that, in some cases maybe an inch or so to 2 inches of rain on top of that. And yeah, we're gonna have some minor flooding issues during the evening commute today. So we're tracking all of that here. And that's why the Weather Prediction Center has put out this level 2, so slight risk. This is a flood outlook. So this is different from our severe weather outlook. It's called a flood outlook. And you can see here in this yellow color, we've got this slight risk of flooding for the day today. So watching that. Over the next 12 hours for us, rain chances are increasing. And in fact, speaking of flooding, Birmingham, Alabama's just put out a flood watch, and that is going to include Randolph County. It's not going to include Cleburne County. So I'll get that for you coming up in a second. You see the storm chances, the rain coverage, how it really, this is for Atlanta specifically, really peaks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Goes higher and higher. So those rain chances are going to be climbing this afternoon and really at their peak between 3 and 7 o'clock in the metro. Between 3 and 7 o'clock in the metro is when I expect the most widespread rain across the metro. Let me pull up the flood watch since we're on streaming here for you. So Birmingham has put out a flood watch. So that does include Randolph and Cleburne counties, or Cleburne and Randolph counties in Alabama. That also includes this I-59 corridor down to Montgomery. The Weather Service in Peachtree City has put out what they call kind of a hazardous weather outlook, highlighting the threat of repeated rounds of heavy rain that could lead to flooding during the evening commute, but there is no flood watch out for us. Rain coverage at its highest today. I know it's been a wet stretch. We've dealt with multiple of these kind of clusters of storms over the last 4 days. And yeah, we've got another one coming today. But once we get past today, it does look significantly drier for Wednesday. I just want to show you a glimpse into forecast track tomorrow. Models have been backing off on rain chances, and we like that trend. This is forecast track showing even some sunshine tomorrow afternoon. I left the rain chance very aggressively at 30%. I debated pulling it back to 20%. I think we might have to do that on the 7-day forecast for what our next update to that. So tomorrow looks mostly dry. Then Thursday comes in, more on and off showers return. This model is really aggressive on Thursday's rain chances. I'm not sure if it's going to be that widespread, but that's something that we're watching as we get these high resolution models, is how do they change day by day versus some of our lower resolution models that we're looking out 4, 5, 6 days in advance. So again, just to kind of recap, we have this weather impact alert. It is for the risk of strong storms, but it's also for the risk of heavy rain that could lead to flooding during your evening commute. Most of us right now are socked into the wedge. We're talking about cloudy skies, some on and off nuisance drizzle, breezy winds, cool temperatures, and it's just kind of a dreary gray start to your Tuesday. But what we're tracking is out to our west. You see all of these heavy thunderstorms that are moving their way from western Alabama up through Birmingham. So heavy rain and thunderstorms tracking up there through the I-59 corridor. All this is moving northeastward. So this afternoon becomes increasingly wet by the hour as we work our way into the afternoon. And it's first going to happen near and north of I-20. near and north of I-20. That's where that heavy rain is going to hit first this afternoon. Then it's really going to progress into the metro as well. Where we see the greatest severe risk is going to be down in this region. So places like Carrollton, LaGrange, Texas in Heard County, Luthersville in northern Meriwether County, the community of Gay, out towards Griffin, Pike, Upson County, Peachtree City even. If you're up in Atlanta and points north, we could still see strong wind gusts. I'm just not as concerned about how severe these storms can get here, because I feel the temperatures will be our limiting factor today. But this is what we're tracking for you. And I just want to close with this. We're going to be here for you. The beauty of streaming and 24/7, our Weather Impact 24/7 channel, is that we can be on. It doesn't matter what's on normal TV, we can be on for you. So we're going to be here for you as the storms are developing this afternoon. Again, you can always catch radar looping on this Weather Impact channel on 11 Live Plus. And then we're going to be, as these storms are coming in, we're here for you streaming. And then 4, 5, 6 o'clock, continuous coverage of the storms that are coming in here. We'll have that for you on TV along with our newscast. And then after 6 o'clock news is done, we'll hop back onto streaming for you. So you can always download 11 Live Plus, and that way you can stay up to date as storms are hitting, and it matters the most. So in red, you see on our 7-day forecast that weather impact alert for today. The storms increase this afternoon, peak in the metro area between 3 and 7 o'clock this evening, and then get out of the area tonight. Tomorrow, the rain chance looks much lower. It'll pick up a little bit again Thursday, Friday, and then a nice front comes through, and that is going to drop our chance of rain down. Now, as we're tracking those chances of rain the next couple days, unfortunately, we're not done with severe weather threats. I knew it's just kind of like the week of comical weather for us. Tomorrow, even though it doesn't look we'll see much on radar, there is a level 1 risk of severe weather. Thursday, that level 1 risk is down in Macon. I wouldn't be surprised if Thursdays got nudged a little bit further north and Wednesdays was maybe nudged a little bit further south, because I don't think we'll see much on radar for tomorrow. But again, just to kind of recap of the recap, weather impact alert today. Storms increase this afternoon, areas of heavy rainfall. We're talking about runoff on the roadways, that threat of some street flooding, and also some damaging wind gusts. The tornado threat is not zero, but it is overall very low. But one of those things we're going to watch closely on radar this afternoon, and we'll have updates here on Weather Impact 24/7.